Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Flat Earth Debate pre-show and after-show goodness. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below this video. Now, we are running a tiny bit late, but I know Anthony, if he does get back, wanted to do a quick plug for something specifically for the Nathan Oakley 1980 audience, because obviously this isn't currently live, but I will do a live intro. But we have got Plain Truth. How are you doing, Plain Truth?
Hello, what?
It's
not like a 1980 Spectrum game.
What's going on? It's all going crazy audio. Did you want to do your little bit exclusively for the bigger audience, Anthony, and then I'll actually start the show? We're a bit late, but who cares?
Basically the idea is that Miles Davis has made his Traprain law observation, and I'm trying to get him to repeat it with me, and he doesn't want to repeat it because his claim is that this shot is impossible if the Earth is flat. And I lost interest in it before Christmas, if I'm honest, but it came on my radar recently because I can't remember what the stimulus was. Something happened that triggered it, and I thought, and basically I'm trying to get him to come back with me, and in essence, he's okay, but he doesn't agree with my proposed method. And my proposed method is, right, that bridge, we can check to see whether it's dropped behind any curvature or not by getting to the same height as the bridge, the way you claim. And if it really is a ball, that bridge has to have geometrically dropped by 169 meters relative to the height that you're now at. So I'm trying to get Miles to agree that we can test and observe that curvature, because if we get to the same height and then put the camera out and look out to the bridge, if we've got a level transit with the camera, then that bridge must be lower than center of frame, because center of frame will be where the camera's looking at. And if we've got it level with the top of the bridge on a flat plane, if it's on a sphere, it has to drop. And then that's what I'm trying to get him to agree to, and he won't agree to it at the moment because he basically doesn't want to agree that technology and or user can be as accurate as what I claim that they need to be. Well, it's 170 meters of drop that the bridge has to have dropped, right? That represents, according to Miles's rough maths, to be 0.2 of a degree, which doesn't sound that much, but when you've got 0.2 of a degree and you've got your camera zoomed in a shed load, that 0.2 of a degree is quite a lot in the vertical. It's not a lot as the angle, but it's the same argument as when the ballers say, yeah, but the Earth doesn't really rotate at 1,000 miles an hour. It's only 1 degree every whatever it is, 15 degrees every 1 hour, or 1 revolution per day. That's not that fast. And we're like, yeah, but it's still got a tangential speed by virtue of the radius. But depending on how you interpret the scale will govern how you interpret this, the prospects of success will be. But the reality is, if that bridge is dropped by 170 meters, we'll see it when we zoom in, and it'll have to drop below center of frame, and it has to. Otherwise, it's not a ball. Oh,
what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the live Flat Earth debates. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as we're currently heavily censored. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on social media. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior and The Plain Truth. How are you both doing, gentlemen?
Woohoo!
Hello, what? Oh!
Hello.
Travis, it sounds like you're coming through on a ZX Spectrum.
I don't even know what that means, ZX Spectrum boy.
Rough.
Do you not remember the noise that Spectrums used to make when they were loading when we were kids?
Tape streamer.
What's a Spectrum?
A ZX Spectrum, a Sinclair Spectrum.
Hello. Okay. I don't know.
You sound like that.
I'm driving in a car. It's very quiet where I am, so I don't know why you're getting the sound that you are. I apologize.
Just try and
It
hover
sounds
the mute.
good when you speak. Sounds good when you speak.
Hello,
Right,
Flat Earth, how you doing?
Hey, great. Good morning.
Can you say something else? My kid just made a load of noise. I was trying to sound check you.
Said I'm doing great. Good morning. How you guys doing?
I'm very well, very well. Good to have you.
Yeah, Travis sounded like a Bluetooth noise.
I don't know, I prefer
Past
the
Bluetooth.
nostalgic tones of a Commodore 64 loading the next level, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right, should
Better.
we crack on with housekeeping, gentlemen? Any signs of curvature?
Nope.
Well, there's been a claim by Miles the Liar Davis. Is it worth going through that, Nath? Or do you think we should...
He who makes the claim bears the burden.
Yeah, Lewis has got an issue with this. Lewis thinks the burden of proof is based on, can you disprove my assertion? And I'm like, Lewis, are you serious? And literally, I've had to block Lewis on Discord along with Dawn Treader because basically they think that if you can't disprove it...
Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Right. Well, what they're trying to reverse the burden. So if
Correct.
you're not making a claim, you don't hold the burden simply because you're calling into question their claim. That doesn't mean you hold the burden.
His phraseology to me was last night was along the lines of, unless you can falsify the hypothesis, then it's sound. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You have to prove your claim first to be able to falsify it. You can't falsify.
How is that done? How do you falsify a hypothesis?
Well, it'd help if you have something to falsify in the first place. Otherwise, you've just got a story, which was my angle.
Yeah,
I didn't go down
the
science route with him because he can't get off the first base.
Yeah, but if you are performing science, what would be the thing to do if you have a hypothesis that requires either validation or invalidation? What would you do?
Systematic experimentation where you
Correct.
your independent variable to prove that it is the cause of the effect that you believe you are witnessing.
Right, hypothesis does not make a claim. Hypothesis is a scientific prediction. And the way you validate or invalidate it, as Anthony so rightly points out, is through systematic experimentation. So I couldn't give a damn if people were presenting a hypothesis. Oh, that's nice. Well, let's see the systematic experimentation that proved the cause of the effect. If you haven't got that, then I couldn't care less. Because that is the essence of science.
Certainly is.
Anyway, so no signs of curvature. If Miles the Liar Davis wants to join, I'm sure he will. Any signs of axial rotation?
Miles Davis won't join.
No.
Axial rotation, no.
Any evidence that we can have a gas pressure without a container?
I've been back and forth with Ruhif on this, and he simply doesn't accept it. He thinks that there's a thing called gravity, and he won't accept. He can't prove it. He thinks that mathematics is proof, and I keep trying to explain to him that it doesn't prove the thing that he believes is there. It simply calculates for something that I say is simply a story. He doesn't like it, Nathan. I don't know how to get past him. He's just thick.
Yeah,
Honest to God,
where's the edge? Where's the edge of the container then? Where's the edge?
It's embarrassing.
Who let this guy in?
Me.
That was extremely funny. I'm sorry, Arwin, you're not going to like this. But yesterday there was like a crescendo moment when I was asking everybody on the panel if any has experienced outer space, and there's kind of a dumb silence. And you go, well, yeah, but I'm not sure if it was actual reality or not. There's a small pause, and then Anthony says, kick him, just kick him.
I know, I remember.
Didn't touch it, kick him. So, any evidence the distance to the sun?
Of consultation with the mind that makes you think to yourself, did he just say what I think he just said? He did. He said it. Right. Be courageous. Kick him.
Right, distance to the sun. Any evidence of that?
Prove it's a sphere. Prove it's tangible first, and then we can talk about it.
Right, exactly. Well said.
Yeah. Again, if you're going to claim it's a ball of... I mean, at the end of the day, the bottom line is this, right? If you type in, is the sun a gas in Google, not just YouTube, in Google, you can see that there is debate right now about whether the sun is a gas, a liquid, a solid, or indeed if it's metaphysical. Now, if you're going to argue about what the sun's constitution is, obviously as a result of spectroscopy, how can you argue how far away it is if you don't even know that it's a physical thing? And a lot of people are arguing that it's some form of focused energy, focused light, something non-physical. So who cares whether it's a liquid or a gas or a solid? What matters is, can we measure how far away it is? And it really depends on whether it's physical or not. So let's find the evidence that the sun's tangible first. Not tangible, physical.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity.
Well, no.
Well, considering that you have to manipulate your independent variable, your assumed cause in a scientific experiment, you would have to be God himself to be able to manipulate gravity, right?
But to be fair, it is a great tool for architecture.
How?
Well, it's very easy to work with in models and everything. That's the advantage of it. It's so simple and it works out so well. It's just not real. That's the problem when it comes.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about the mathematics.
Proving it.
You're talking about the mathematics of relative density in air, though, aren't you, Arwin?
Hmm?
You're talking about the relative density argument, but specifically in air.
Just the whole construct, how they use it, does work out for the purpose of what they use it for. Doesn't make it real, though.
Fair enough. So I'll take that as a no. No scientific evidence of gravity. What about molten iron core? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nathan, I watched a video on the most convoluted, nonsensical, irrational, crazy, stupid video explanation for how the molten iron core perpetuates its own energy from a teacher. Right? I'm not entirely. I'll have to look at where the thing is from. I really think that we should. I don't know whether you'll get away with this in terms of playing it in the background, but we don't even need the sound. Just watch what he draws on the board. Would that be enough for a copyright strike?
Yeah, unfortunately, visuals do come under it these days.
Because it's just utter This guy's explanation is just ridiculous. And he's a teacher. Oh, that reminds me. Have you all seen my video from yesterday about quarks? If you haven't, check it out on my channel. Basically, when I did the experiment, or not the experiment, the the exam question paper with conspiracy cats before he became a full-blown ball-earth retard, one of the questions that I remembered was to do with these things called quarks, and I'd never heard of them before. I don't remember doing them in school. It seems to be a new word for me.
Really?
Maybe I was asleep that day.
Oh, I learned that in the 90s.
Well, I don't remember it, so it's either escaped my mind or it was never there in the first place.
It's supposed to be the smallest particle, and after that it becomes strings in the deep. That's where quantum mechanics sets in. That's how it's supposed to be.
Well, whatever it is, I remembered the name quarks because I thought it was quite an unusual word. And then Ali B sent me a clip, and he said, "Check this out for education drama or education mistakes or whatever." And basically, he gave me this clip, and I was listening to it. And this theoretical physicist by the name of whatever his name was, from Cambridge University, a PhD professor, right? He's telling us about how quarks were taught to us because it's a beautiful picture that children could understand, and it leads them on into the greater building blocks later on down the line. And he said, but there's a problem with it, and the problem is that it's all a lie. And then I was like, really? So bearing in mind, I'm thinking about what happened with conspiracy cats, and one of the questions on the paper that I sat to do with quarks, I wanted to hear in what context was this actually a lie. And it turns out that these quarks don't even exist. They're theoretical particles. They're not actual particles. They're a bit like photons. I know John says that photons are like matter, they're particles, but the virtual particles, right? So whatever that means, that these quarks don't physically exist. The manifestations of some kind of like pseudoscience is probably the best word, called theoretic physics. And this guy said that they don't even exist. And he said the best way to describe the building blocks of nature is not these quarks and neutrons and positrons and all this. It's literally a fluid-like substance that floats through the whole universe. And it was the most fantasial, Disney-esque description of the building blocks of life that it sounds more like he's describing creation than he is describing anything else. But this is supposed to be, he's a professor at Cambridge. But when I go back to the paper that I did with conspiracy cats, and I got 3 marks for the question that was to do with quarks and how the decomposition of a beta radiation particle or whatever, you got 3 marks for basically saying that a neutron became a positron or something like that, and an up quark became a down quark and something else. But the answer is that actually none of this stuff actually exists. It's all a lie, because we actually have the building blocks of nature to be this floating fluid-like substance that's in our universe. So the reality is, if you put it's all a lie because it's a fluid-like substance according to a PhD at Cambridge University, you get 0 marks for that. But my query was, why did it even exist in the first place? But if you cross-reference that with regards to the idea that we might live on a sphere or might not live on a sphere, you can see the parallels, which might be a convenient lie that we get taught when we're children to hide the inconvenient truth, that it might actually not be a sphere at all. I was drawing direct parallels and criticizing the education process at the same time. And you want to see the backlash underneath in the comments. Oh my God, I'm getting loads of heat on it. It's ridiculous. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's my most recent upload. It's fast.
Give it with its full title so that people can actually search for it by title.
I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me see if I can get to it quick. The full title of said video is called "Do Teachers Actually Teach Lies in School?" Great video. It's really good. So it's 12 minutes long, and most of it is listening to the context of this bloke talking. And I deliberately left it playing long because I didn't want people to accuse me of cherry picking, but they still accuse me of cherry picking. But you can hear what he says yourself, and it's just nonsense.
But hold on, is it all presuppositional reasoning, or is it absolutely blatantly proven lies?
No, it's theoretical physics that disclaims or that determines that quarks are lies, and that they're not actually what the building blocks of nature are at all.
Right. So there's another presuppositional approach.
It's just a contradictory interpretation from a theoretical physicist from Cambridge University that in itself doesn't really disprove it. But what I'm saying is it just obfuscates this point that it's just nonsense. You get taught all the way through your life that these things called quarks exist, and then you find out at like a degree level, like I think this might actually be master's level, that these things don't actually exist. It's all a lie.
Hey, Chris.
But how would you know?
Hold on a second, Owen.
It's not a train of thought.
Hey, Nathan.
Hey. Sorry, Owen.
Hey. Well, you wouldn't know. I'm not saying that he's right. All I'm saying is that he's adding a completely opposing argument in the name of theoretical physics to a theoretical physics position that may or may not exist in the first place. But ultimately, it confuses the hell out of you because everything you've learned up to the point where he tells you has been a lie. And like, well, what else has been a lie?
A lie or a mistake that was fallen on, basically. Is the other approach, it may be more sensible, but is that proven? Or does it just seem more sensible?
Was this question off the back of Molten Iron Core?
Yeah, well, it did come on the back of it, yeah. It was to do with the most gobbledygook explanation that you will ever see from a Molten Iron Core explanation, ever. You don't even need like words to understand it. It's 8 minutes long. I don't know how best to do this. I might just stick it on my channel and then link it because if I do some commentary and honest to God, it's just nonsense. In fact, what I'm going to do at the end of this show, I will go live just for the purposes of showing it. And if I get a copyright strike, they just monetize it, and I don't mind because I'm not a monetized channel. So isn't that right, Nathan? I can just play this and talk my way through it. And if they do copyright strike it, all I lose is the monetization that I didn't get in the first place.
Well, be careful with the music, mostly, if it's in it.
No, it's
anyway,
not music.
let's just tune into Sleeping Warrior channel after this is finished. Hopefully, it won't get any issues with copyright. But either way, Any evidence of the elusive R value, talking of presuppositions and nonsense?
R.
Oh, and it turns out his name is Professor John Arnew. It's almost like
Arnew?
Yeah. Professor, though. He's a professor. It's fantastic. If you think we've got a molten iron core, right, and this professor is any authority, not saying he's not, he is a professor, but what I am saying is if this is the nonsense that we get told, how can you realistically accept this to be the position? It's just utter garbage.
Look, a professor is just implying that he teaches. That's it. Doesn't mean that he's a god or something.
I agree, but again, it's just pointing out the point, making the point that there seems to be an awful lot of disinfo, miseducation out there to the point where it's totally confusing. And how can we learn anything if it's so ridiculously convoluted? And that's what this example is. So check it out. Once we finish on this, I'll go live and I'll show it. And if they monetize it, they monetize it. It doesn't matter to me. But you got everybody that's in the flat Earth debate. Either side needs to see how this stuff's explained because it's terrible. From a professor.
So yeah, just to round out then, is there any evidence of the R value?
I thought we were on molten iron core. No.
Well, we may discover it one day in our jungle travels. We'll find the original proof of R that they found traveling around the world.
Let's give a shout out to all the heliocentric victims that are all jumping on the Nathan bandwagon, who thinks that for some reason Nathan threatened to sodomize Tim Osman, but they miss off the bit where he says with R. Now let's be honest, guys. You can't sodomize somebody with R if R doesn't exist, because that would be a reification.
Yeah, but if you presuppose that it does exist, it can be quite painful. You know.
No, you're all wrong. I did sodomize Tim with R.
Nathan, R doesn't exist, so you're applying a reification fallacy and making a claim. I'm going to call nonsense on that one, Nathan. I'm sorry.
I don't care. Tim got sodomized with R.
Oh, go for me for Tim.
Well, that concludes the housekeeping. Superb, gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking part. I'm interested in what Jose's saying in the chat. He apparently is owed money by Soundly. I wonder if we get any details on that. Apparently he's been informed that Soundly owes him money. I'd like to know what that is about, if you don't mind.
Who's Jose?
Jose Soundly Slayer, JG Gonzalez. He's in the chat right now. You know who You know who... I'd like to say you know who Soundly is. You know who Jose is.
I know. I was just teasing. You can have a refracted chat out, actually.
I just realized, Nathan, you curtailed your molten iron core question. I was waiting for it, and then you didn't say it. So then when you didn't say it, I didn't even recognize it.
We went off into the quarks thing.
Sorry, my kid was banging around. I couldn't hear what you said, Travis. Can you repeat that?
I said that I was waiting for your typical molten iron core question, but you curtailed it. You cut it short and just asked for a molten iron core. You didn't do your at the center of a presupposed spherical. I was disappointed.
No, I did. I did actually. You rewind it and you'll find I did.
Okay.
Nathan, do you actually have this scripted out? Because you seem to get it word for word verbatim every time, and I can never even remember it. So I'm not crediting you with a fantastic memory. I'm saying you must have a script.
Not at all. So, for instance, the proof of nothing, because it proves nothing. Perspective hijacking, because it hijacks perspective. Begging the question, because it assumes R. Curve calculator, because it's only useful for calculating curvature, is for me easy to remember. So I remember each of those points being debated about and lost by the globeheads. So I remember finding out that the entire thing is a reification fallacy based on R, the assumption thereof. Well, that's never going to leave my cognition. So R assuming curve calculator or begging the question proof of nothing calculator isn't going to leave my cognition. Same goes for the perspective hijacking bit. I know your example was the evidence of a molten iron core, right? Where I say any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Well, self-perpetuating, that's just complete and utter nonsense. You can't have a dynamo effect molten iron core beyond the Curie point, and I'll never forget that. That's not something that's going to leave my cognition in a hurry. So the self-perpetuating molten iron core, as we are taught in school, that's cemented without a script. at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth, it can only be presupposed. You can't prove a sphere unless you presuppose a sphere. So again, none of this stuff can leave my cognition as opposed to being scripted, and you know, I couldn't debate about it on the fly if it was all scripted.
Nathan, is it okay if I screen share?
As long as it's not pornography.
Why do you even have to make that a prerequisite? Surely
well, there was that one time. Yeah, of course you can.
Hang on a sec. Let me just get the window that I need. I just want to share the window. I don't want to share everything. So just so that because my screen's pretty big.
Hold on, that sounds suspicious. What do you mean everything? What are you going to show us?
My whole desktop.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Here we go. So share this. Right. You're seeing just the inbox, right?
Quick question.
Yeah. What's the quick question?
It says at the top, quick question. Hey, Jose.
It's me. Don't kick me, it's me.
No one's going to kick you, Jose. Good to have you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
It starts with quick question.
Yeah, so Ruhif sent me a question this morning. He'll be in bed now. And he basically says, when you say you can't have a gas pressure next to a vacuum without a membrane, why do you say it? Does it just come down to the definition you saw on the internet? And then he's talking about quarks. Ignore that. So how would you respond to that, Nath? Why do we say you can't have a gas pressure next to a vacuum without a membrane?
It's a second law of thermodynamics violation.
Yeah, entropy is a bitch if you believe we live in a ball. There's a problem. You've got all this gas that's under pressure that needs to go somewhere because of pressure, and you've got a vacuum that's a differential that's basically a massive. It's like a lightning conductor, right? It's like attracting the force of the pressure, like a lightning conductor attracts the force of the lightning.
No, it isn't. No, it's not. No, wrong.
Do you have to do this?
I've got to do this. If you say this stuff, people will just take the clip and say Anthony doesn't understand pressure. By virtue of what you've just said, you would assert, am I correct? I'm not asserting this. Would you assert that a vacuum sucks?
No, I said it's like an attractive force, like a lightning pole.
Yeah, like an attractive force would pull the lightning towards it because it's attracting it. So you're saying that the space, the absence of the gas, attracts the gas. Well, that's factually inaccurate. What's happening is the energy of the particles, which is randomly bouncing all over the place. If you remove the thing they bounce off the container, the necessary antecedent for gas pressure, then instead of bouncing off it, they just keep going. Well, it's their energy, the energy within the gas, that is forcing its way out into the empty space that it can then fill when it doesn't have something to bounce off and come back and randomly bounce against another particle of whatever it is that you've got a gas of. So, in other words, the vacuum does nothing. It's purely the gas that would expand by virtue of its energy going into that space that it can fill. So the vacuum doesn't do anything. That's it, I'm done.
And you have to realize that they don't solve the problem by trying to prove that vacuums don't suck. It doesn't solve the problem to make that point, because you still have the problem that you just delineated, Nathan, which you did very well, right? The particles are going to go somewhere. That's the issue. They're going to go fill that void. Doesn't matter if it doesn't suck. They're going to go somewhere. But they don't. Why don't they?
I get bogged down in the semantics. I don't mind being misrepresented. I'm used to it.
Sorry, we're completely hijacking your point. You carry on about Ruhif, I'll shut up.
Simple process?
Basically, I gave him the point that we give to all of the dumb idiots. And it's basically this clip. And this sound should come through, Nathan. I'll just play this. It's only, and what he says right at the end. We've got the globe at the end of it. 30 seconds. Is that too much?
Just go ahead. I'm sure it'll be fine. This is for fair use.
Let's try another pretty simple process. Let's just take a gas. In some volume, V, and over here is going to be vacuum of equal volume.
So we're going to have the gas pressure of Earth, and we're going to have the vacuum of space. And you see that little line, that divide, that I'm going to call that a membrane for the purposes of this demonstration, right? So watch what he does. Watch what he says, or listen to what he says.
And we're going to remove the barrier. you know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available, right?
So basically, how is it possible that if there's a pressurized system in a vacuum of space, the way Sir's just described it, and this is a professor, how is it possible that without a membrane there can even exist this issue? Now, this is what I basically said back to Ruhif. I said, you literally must be as retarded as Lewis if you think it cannot. And guess what he says? Yep, we're well aware of what would happen in that scenario, as are you. You do accept that air molecules also have a force acting on them at approximately 9.8 meters per second, right? And I says, any proof for said force? So then he responds and says, well, you didn't measure the acceleration of a falling object in science when you were a kid? Question mark. And I said, so that's a no then. Does that object fall at that rate when it's in water, in tar, in a vacuum chamber? I wonder why that rate is different in different mediums. Air resistance, you know the answer. Not sure why you're being difficult.
Sorry, was his answer air resistance? Sorry, stop. His answer was air resistance.
Yeah, that's all he said.
Well, hang on a second. He's trying to assert gravity, and he gives a relative density answer. You're having me on, right? So he is essentially conceding your point there.
I know.
Okay.
So get this. This is my response to that. Because it was a one-word response, basically. I've just said in response, I said, so it's not a force at 9.8 meters per second then, is it? It is medium dependent. I'm being difficult because it debunks your claim. It doesn't fall at the rate of 9.8 in different mediums. If you make a claim and I ask for proof, claiming maths is not proof. Have a second bite. Do you have any proof of this force that you claim? Do not come back with maths. I want to see something that proves this force. Wiggles?
Hello.
Yo. Bear with me, Wiggles. I'm nearly done.
Okay.
I want to see something that proves this force. We know the definitions of force vary from source to source, but generally speaking, it's a push or a pull interaction. That's the broad stroke. So we need to see a push or a pull interaction that contrasts itself from an object's own density in the medium it's in. Cavendish did quantify the strength of this force when he demonstrated gravity, but he quantified it to be a 50 millionth of the object's weight as it's proportional to its mass. And there's the citation. So let's see something where a 50 millionth of an object's weight was manipulated, and only that 50 millionth by varying this so-called force. And if you can't assert something with evidence, it has to be dismissed according to Christian, and I support that. Then we consider the current science for this force of which we speak. And we've all seen this before. Basically, general relativity snaps the wand in two by showing that the curvature of space-time and not an invisible force gives rise to gravitational attraction. And when you say this force pulls things down, Einstein claims down to be defined as, this is a new bit, we haven't seen this before, down, oh, here we go, morphing of space and time is not just the stuff of exotic physics. It governs the motion of any falling objects. Baseballs, wine glasses, expensive smartphones, things that slip out of your hand accelerate towards the floor because Earth's mass warps time. Down is defined by the direction in which time passes more slowly. So for those people that argue there is an up and a down, according to the current science, down is defined by the direction which more time passes more slowly.
Sorry, I just want to add something in there. Sorry to interrupt, Anthony. So check out Jeronism's video about transform equations and Einstein. I think the title of the video is How Einstein Made the World Spin. And he goes through in great detail the transformative equations required to turn a non-inertial frame into an inertial frame, when it's a massive problem for Einstein that you have things like the Michelson and Morley experiment proving that we are not spinning by getting a null result where they expected to get a positive result, i.e. that the Earth is actually moving when it's not. So in order to right that wrong, to square that circle, Einstein had to come up with his theory of general relativity and use transform equations to square that circle. If you want more details, check out Jeronism's video. It's called How Einstein Made the Earth Spin. I think that's correct. I hope I've got it correct.
So Riley, do you have about 1,000 more citations, or is this the only one cherry pick that you can present today?
I could do 1,000 more if you need to. But anyway, let me finish my point and then you can challenge it. So basically, down is defined by the direction in which time passes more slowly. So what I'm saying back is to him is, So what you're saying about objects having a force acting on them at 9.8 meters per second, I call rubbish. Oh, would you like any citations for any of these citations? Will you actually read them if I present any to you, though? And obviously, I didn't get a response. But if you're going to just give me a one-word answer for the explanation for all this downward, like 9.8 meters per second, one-word answer, which isn't even your position, it's our position, resistance.
Sorry, I thought you'd go through this and you haven't, so I'm going to get it in anyway. Sorry, I thought you were going to go through this. So if he's going to claim time dilation, then part of his time dilation is the polar opposite, which is mass contraction. So as time dilates, length contracts. That's Einstein's sleight of hand with a transform equation, making something happen where it didn't happen before. So you have the inverse opposite. In the maths, this is a mathematical construct. So, sorry, Ruhif, if you're going to claim that this time dilation is doing something, show me time dilating, you complete moron.
Yeah, basically, you have to satisfy Einstein's definition of gravity, right? Your independent variable is going to have to be manipulation of time. Well, unless you're Doc Brown out of Back to the Future, you ain't going to be able to do it. So I look forward to seeing.
Hold on. No, sorry, I can't let that hang out there either. That implies that time is manipulatable. No, time is a concept.
Who cares? My point is that the science is not Newtonian principles. It's currently Einsteinian. And if you're going to bend space-time and dilate time, that's good luck with demonstrating how you're going to do that. So shout outs to Einstein for making it totally impossible for any baller to ever prove gravity, because we all know that the bending of space-time and the manipulation of time passing more slowly to denote down is garbage.
Yeah,
Jose.
sorry to continually hijack your point. It was just I was very excited. It was an excellent point, Anthony. Thank you.
Jose, any evidence for gravity?
Thank you, Anthony. No.
Thank you.
Not from me. I'm not a scientist. I just do YouTube videos. Go ahead.
Do you believe in gravity, Jose?
Gravity is a very strong possibility. We all know how it works. So it's on you to how to interpret it and believe it or not.
Oh, because everybody cites that there's an attractive force between masses, Jose, but actually the bending of space-time coupled with the direction in which time passes more slowly, that's gravity.
Yeah, let me put this quick analogy. If you are sitting on the ocean, on the beach, and then you find this little piece of sand, very shiny, and you grab it, and it's different from all the others, but it's a grain of sand, so it's the same as the others, but it got a little bit of different. You're gonna spend a lot of time just breaking down this piece of sand, or you're gonna see the big picture. They say they all grain of sands. I don't know if you understand my analogy, but that's what you're doing. Cherry picking one little piece of information and trying to add the bunch. Like, this is what you have to believe because I found this citation that says the opposite. Or agree with what you disagree, you know?
Citation.
So do you not agree to it then?
Hold on. There's nothing to agree to. He's challenging an assertion. He's not making any assertion himself. He's challenging the current rhetoric based on their own information. This isn't his claim. He's stating that Einstein... Oh, my bad, Owen. So he's stating that Einstein is claiming, in order for this to be necessitated, the bending of space-time must be real. Well, that's a statement from Einstein that Anthony is challenging. He's not making a claim, he's challenging Einstein. Good on him.
This challenge came from this interaction that he had with this scientist or teacher or whatever he was, right, Riley? That's where the challenge came from your interaction from him?
No, it came from Ruhif this morning.
Oh, okay.
Listen,
yeah,
I
on him. Ruhif, he's on Ruhif, you know, you, not me. I don't have nothing to do with that. I came to shout out to whoever owes me money because flat earthers keep telling me I got paid. I went to Soundly stream yesterday. I told him, you owe me money, give me my money. And he laughed. So I guess it's not him. So flat earthers gave me hope that somebody is going to pay me something and I wasn't aware of. I went to Gen Panda Discord. Nobody owed me nothing there. They keep pointing me fingers. So if somebody owes me money for I don't know what, because it's something that flat earthers told me. So if somebody want to give me money or something, please donate it to your whatever you want. Give it to Nathan. You don't
have to stand on ceremony, Jose. I get it. You're not being subtle. Look, I know the check's in the post. It will get there. It's just been a really tough month, right? Lots of copyright strikes. So I will sort it out, mate. It's in the post. Promise.
Thank you. All right. about that obstruction in the distance that you guys call not curvature, and I do call it curvature. It's
Sorry,
impossible on a flat Earth.
that's not what happens. That's not what happens. That's not what happens. You call it curvature, so you have this ham-handed way of now asserting that we call it not curvature. Do you want to put quotes around somebody in that regard, Jose, where someone's pointed out obstruction from the bottom up, as opposed to replicating it like you did with your light on the floor? That's what we do. We replicate obstruction from the bottom up on a flat surface. You've done it. So we don't say, look at this not curvature. You, now you're a globe head, say, look at this curvature, when it's actually just obstruction from the bottom up. And then when we ask, how do you get from obstruction from the bottom up to curvature, we then laugh at the answer. So I'd like to do that with you now. How do you get, Jose, from obstruction from the bottom to Earth being curved?
I make a logical deduction. Isn't the only geometrical shape that makes sense?
Sorry, do you want to put it into a syllogism? Because that sounded like a begging the question fallacy to me.
No. I see everything around me, and everything works geometrically as a sphere. So I don't have to presuppose it. I just see it around me everywhere.
What do you mean you see it geometrically?
Geometry apparently is not
this
your
you're
greatest
just throwing out word salad. So quantify that statement. You see the world geometrically. Do you want to quantify that so I understand what that means?
Yeah, I see too much obstruction for the bottom up for a flat Earth, number one.
Oh, right. Well, that was kind of, Jose, my question to begin with. How do you get, I'll say it a little bit slower, right into the mic. Listen very closely, Jose. How do you get from obstruction to Earth curvature? Did you hear that second time?
Oh, yeah, I heard it the first time.
Yeah, well, the answer I got the first time was, I see the world geometrically. So I don't want to hear word salad. I want you to explain how you get from I see bottom-up obstruction to Earth is a sphere.
I think every single shape possible to see how this obstruction can happen, and the only one that can happen is a sphere, is a curve somewhere.
Sorry, when you say any shape possible...
Well, a cylinder would work too.
Sorry, Wiggles. Yeah, you don't need to save him. Yeah? Your job is not to play Alan. Thanks. So, Jose, take me through it. So far, you've said, I see the world geometrically. How do you get from the Earth curve? Are you saying you assume Earth is a model that is a sphere-shaped? That's what your assertion was. The only shape that works... So you're saying, I'm going to assume it's a shape, correct?
I have to think and visualize it as a shape, yes.
No, you don't. That's a fallacy. We don't live on a model shape, Jose. We live on the ground. You get that? Hey, Alan, how you doing?
Indeed. We don't live in a model, indeed. But I have to visualize it somewhere.
So,
to be
an answer to say the only shape that works is to say this model shape works. Wrong, Jose. So we're still not there. I'll try a third time. How do you get from obstruction from the bottom up to Earth curve? Preferably without fallacy being used.
Yeah, I start scratching off all the possibilities as mirage, this refraction, mirroring, the angle of attack, the angle of view, the angle of the Rayleigh's criteria, Airy's diffraction. I try to scratch off all the possibilities to see if anything makes sense. At the end, when anything makes sense, I have to presuppose something as it has to be then a shape. It cannot be in a flat surface with any of these factors taken in consideration. So I'm going to add a shape to it.
I have a question.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. That's the same answer. So you're saying you must employ logical fallacy and assume you live on a model, having just said you won't do that. Now you're telling me you must do that, Jose. I don't understand.
If you want to interpret what I say that way, you're entitled to your opinion. Thank you.
You said I scratch off all the options. The only option I'm left with is a model sphere. Right? That's what you just said, isn't it? I'm not interpreting it. I'm now
curve.
trying
I say
to...
a sphere, then I say a curve, you know. It could be a dick shape. It could be a donut. Yeah, but it's a curve.
So you're just going to assert a religious belief about it then?
No, because I see other things that cannot work on a flat surface.
If it was literal cylinder shape, then the curve would only be in one direction.
Sorry,
It makes no damn sense.
I don't want a straw man about what it can't do. This will be the third time I've asked. How do you get from obstruction at the bottom to earth curve? Preferably without employing the logical fallacy of reification. That is to say, it's the only shape that works, having scratched off all the alternatives. Don't give us any explanation for how you've scratched them off. Presumably you've just decided to ignore them. But we'll come back to that. How do you get from obstruction to earth curve?
I don't have a satisfactory answer for you, so I pass on that one.
You got flat smacked.
Yeah, that was my question, Jose. So my question to you would be, where is your documentation for all of the variables that you've scratched off? Because scratching off seems to indicate a cherry picking of variables that you don't seem to be able to either understand or agree with. So I wouldn't use the word scratched off. I would use the word eliminate. And then I would require of you, Jose, documentation of how you eliminated those variables outside of the fact that it was scratched on a napkin with a pen.
Hey, Jose.
Yeah, watch my last two videos, and there's the documentation. Go ahead.
Jose, do you realise that you can't just say, because I see it? See what they're demanding of you?
See what? We're asking him to say
You don't have to
earth curve.
But Nathan
Hold on.
can say...
No, that's
Nathan
wrong,
can
Alan.
say,
No. Don't strawman me, Alan. How dare you? No.
How dare
He's not
I?
saying I see earth curve because it's there, is he? Is that what he's saying? I just see earth curve because it's there?
Yes.
No.
Yes,
He sees... Shut up, everybody. I'm trying to make my point. So he sees obstruction and asserts earth curve. So he's not seeing any bloody earth curve, Alan. I see a lighthouse because it's there. That's different. That's not I see earth curve because he doesn't. He sees an obstruction and then tells us it's a logical deduction.
Do you see the 200-foot cliff below the
Another
lighthouse?
straw man. So he does not see earth curve because it's there. So you're going to relinquish that straw man, take it back, Alan, or just move on like a wanker? After I've set your toes to the fire, just going to ignore what I've said to you. He doesn't see earth curve because it's not there, Alan. Should we go over this indefinitely till you concede it? I think that would be fun.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so he does not see earth curve, Alan. Do you understand that? I say I see something because it is there. Like a lighthouse, for example. Now you take me to where he sees earth curve, because that's the point we're going through, Alan. The fact that he doesn't. He asserts earth curve because he's got a reification fallacy disorder and can't help himself, but saying it's the only bloody model that works. In other words, he simultaneously ignores every single aspect that we detail and decides to reify a model. Well, that's just logical fallacy. That's not seeing earth curve, Alan. Are you an idiot?
Jose, get any of...
Not Jose. You will concede that he
Jose,
does
get
not
any
see
of
earth
Randy's
curve
videos
because
up.
it's there.
Put some
There
earth
isn't
curve.
any there. And if you don't and talk over me, I'll kick you out. So, you have strawmanned me. He does not see earth curve because it's there. There isn't any there. That's our point, Alan. You think you see earth curve, but you see obstruction from the bottom up and then tell us it's earth curve. That's the point that we're making. He doesn't see it. So to say he says he sees stuff because it's there and you're not allowed to, well, no, he's not seeing earth curve, is he? That's the point we're sitting on and labouring. Because you say, look at this obstruction, and then with a little bit of sleight of hand suddenly change the word obstruction into earth curve. Like that's somehow acceptable to automatically assume your outcome. Okay, Alan? He's not seeing earth curve. Gonna concede?
No, I'm not conceding.
Oh, so he does see earth curve.
Yep.
Where does he see it? Show it me.
Any of Ranty's videos. Get
Sorry,
one.
there is no curve in any of those pictures. There is obstruction. You're just going to laugh at me over me. I'll kick you out. You absolute wanker. You think you're funny? You think you're funny, Alan? You think you're funny? No,
Alan,
I'll
no,
just kick
Peter.
you out. You're a wanker. Wanker. So he doesn't see earth curve. He sees obstruction and calls it earth curve. So when I say, do you see earth curve? And you say yes, in Ranty's pictures where there's obstruction from the bottom up, that's precisely the point I'm making. You see obstruction and call it earth curve. That's the problem. And when I point that out and you do it for the audience live, yes, I see Earth curve, obstruction from the bottom up. Sleight of hand, because you weren't looking at Earth curve, were you, Alan? You wanker. Laugh
Nathan,
because you've had your ass handed to you.
Tonight I will go to work and I will do the same light test exactly in the same spot, looking forward and looking back, exactly the same. But I'm gonna add a $1 laser that should reach the other side. I think I was telling Riley this, and I will replicate it exactly the same. The laser should reach the other side where the light is placed, where it disappears. That's to work. And then if it works as previously and the light doesn't hit any bump in the floor, if it doesn't get obstructed halfway before getting to the end, then there is something there that I have to then work around it and see if I was right, if I was wrong. Until then, perspective is a thing, and you know perspective, and you like perspective. I love it because I draw perspective. That's one of the first things I learned. Things appear to get smaller with the distance. They reduce in angular size uniformly, and they converge to a point. So if I don't see something, it gets too small to disappear. I magnify it, and I see it again. It keeps getting smaller uniformly until it disappears. Never seen an example of disappearing from the bottom up until flat Earth.
Oh, really? Well, that's simply explained by the fact that the bottom angle of anything you look at is smaller than the top. So let me give you an example, Jose. You personally, and a mate, spread yourselves out a mile apart, and the guy looks at you through the camera. Yep, you with me so far? And he can just about see you. Now, just for the purposes of this example, don't worry about the fact that I may be incorrect with the amount that you disappear at. But let's pretend for the sake of argument that you go to 5 miles and you are too small to see. The camera can't resolve you anymore. Do you follow with me?
Yep.
So you're about 6 foot. So you've gone further away and you've disappeared. 6 foot man. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. You're standing next to a 100-foot building, Jose. Yeah? So, do you think the bottom 6 foot of that building is visible?
Yeah, when looking in the distance, there's a slant effect where the floors ramp up and appear to go up, along with everything on it. So, yes, I should be able to see the bottom of the object.
So, how come we can see the bottom of the building, but we can't see you? So, you've backed away from the camera till you're too small to see.
Too small to
But you're
resolve,
saying,
yeah.
so we can see the building behind you, but not you. That seems a bit weird. Aren't you the same physical size as the bottom 6 feet?
Yeah.
So the bottom 6 feet would also be gone then, given that it's the same exact angular size as you at the point that you vanish. Correct, Jose?
No, it'll be there. It'll be there. A little blur, but it'll be there.
Oh, so you're saying that you'll disappear, a 6 foot man, at a given distance, but the wall behind you won't, even though it's the 6 foot portion that you're standing behind is the same exact angular size as you. You'll disappear, but the wall won't.
It gets smaller uniformly. It's a bigger structure. It takes longer to disappear. Uniformly.
The stuff above the first 6 feet. So the stuff above has got a bigger angular size. So let's just do it slightly differently. Instead of you, Jose, we're going to take a 6 foot brick wall and we're going to build it at a distance of 10 miles. Yeah? And in your camera, that 6 foot wall, will you agree, just for my sake of example, that it's too small to see at, let's say, 10 miles? It's too small. Correct, Jose? Same example as you being in the distance, just bricks instead of you now. Gonna get a concession?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So 6 foot of bricks has disappeared into the distance. Yeah? Great. Now I'm gonna build another 100 stories on top of that 6 foot pile of bricks. The camera stays the same. The bricks stay the same, but I build on top of them. Can I now see the 6 foot bricks that had previously disappeared, given that the camera hasn't changed an inch, and all I've done is build on top of those bricks that had disappeared? Are they now... You can see them now, can you, Jose? Now built on top of them, you can see those bricks, can you?
I cannot see them because they are too small to be resolved.
So you're telling me that the brick wall that this extra stuff I've built on still can't be seen? So effectively 6 foot of the bottom of the building has gone. Is that what you're saying, Jose? Wow. So
No.
6 foot of the building has gone. Bottom up, disappearing building. Right, Jose?
No.
Nathan, I think you have to what you're.
Shut up!
If you realize
Shut up or
what
I'll
you're
kick
saying.
you out, Wiggles. I'll get to you shortly. Jose, so we've built bricks at a distance that they cannot be seen because they're too small. Then we've built on top of them something massive that can be seen. And you think the 6 foot wall that couldn't be seen has come back because we've built on top of it, or not?
Yes, it should be seen. If I got a P1000 and a more powerful
No,
telescope, I
no.
should
The
be able to
camera's
see
not
it.
changed. Let's
Exactly,
not move goalposts. Yeah? Okay, I'll move the goalposts. Now we've got a 6 foot wall at 31 miles away, Jose. Is it big enough, this 6 foot wall, to see in your P900? Yes or no?
Probably not. Maybe
Shut up, everyone else, shut up.
If it's there, I will see it.
So you can see it. Okay, we're going to put it at 50 miles. 6 foot wall. Is it too small to see now, Jose?
Not necessarily because it starts disappearing from the bottom up, starting in 10 miles.
Sorry,
And
Jose,
at
let's
50
not worry about
miles, it will
disappearing
be
from the bottom
gone
up.
behind the curve.
Let's not worry about disappearing from the bottom up. Let's worry about whether or not we can see it. If it's too small or not. Things eventually
I'm not going to
get...
forget what's real, what's reality, what
Sorry,
I see.
you're just going to hijack my example. I'm going to take you through it, whether you like it or not, Jose. 6 foot wall. How far away do I have to get for you to accept that it's disappeared because it's too small, Jose? You tell me the distance in your P1000. How far's that 6 foot wall got to be to disappear? You tell me.
I'm not sure, maybe 3 or 4 miles.
4 miles. So if I say 10 miles, yeah, you'd say that it's disappeared.
If I got a very powerful camera and I don't see it, yes.
For crying out loud, don't circle jerk me, asshole. We're using a P1000. In your estimation, at what distance will the 6 foot wall disappear because it's too small in a P1000?
In a flat surface, about 4 miles. No,
Okay.
in a flat surface, maybe 10 miles. But I don't see it on 4 miles.
Sorry,
anymore.
at 5 miles, the brick wall that is 6 foot tall is too small to see, according to you. Correct or not?
Yeah, it's a mistake. It's a struggle on the language. So in a flat surface, I should be able to see a 6 foot wall at 10 miles, maybe 15 miles distance. But I stopped seeing it at 5 miles. So something is happening.
Sorry, Jose. On a flat surface, are you saying that things won't eventually become too small to see? We should see forever.
Yeah, but with a P900, P1000, I should be able to see it further than that.
Yeah, I'll keep going around in circles with you. You tell me what distance the 6 foot wall disappears. Because if I look through a P1000 and I look west, I won't see a 6 foot wall in America, will I? It's too small, right, Jose? So you give me any number, I don't care, it doesn't matter, that you accept you can no longer see the 6 foot wall because it's too small. You tell me what distance you accept that your P1000 can't see a 6 foot wall because it's too small. Just give me a distance.
Can we just pick 6 million miles?
You can shut up. That's what you can do, Wiggles.
I say 20 miles.
Okay, so at 20 miles, we've got a 6 foot wall that's gone. It's too small. Right, Jose?
Yes.
Okay, now
It's
we're
rough
gonna...
numbers we're throwing there.
Sorry, you're throwing in a caveat.
Rough estimations. It's rough estimations, yeah.
Yeah, we're just doing it for the sake of example. We all accept that eventually, at a given distance, a 6 foot wall will become too small to see. We're going to say 20 because it's your arbitrary figure that we assign, so that after I've assigned it, you don't say, if I've got a bigger camera. Yeah, we're trying to stick with one example of eventually a 6 foot wall disappearing. I'm not pushing the goalposts the other way and saying, well, if I do it in my iPhone, am I? We're just accepting that eventually a 6-foot wall's too small to see at a given distance.
Yeah, go ahead. Thought experiment. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we've now got a 6-foot wall at 20 miles and Jose concedes that we can't see it anymore because it's too small. But on top of the 6-foot wall, I'm going to build a 100-foot skyscraper on top of the wall that has disappeared because it's too small. So, Jose, we can see the other 100-foot on top of the 6-foot wall, but we still can't see the 6-foot wall.
Nathan, could you please talk a little
Shut
slower?
up! Don't
No, just
pull
slower,
his toes away. Right, that's your last chance, unorthodox. I will roast Jose's toes, whether or not you zealots on the panel like it or not. He will eventually concede that the bottom we are depicting has disappeared from the bottom up to the tune of 6 foot, because the bottom 6 foot's too small to see.
Yeah, and then you got 100.
No,
extra
just a
foot
concession.
right above.
We can
6 foot
still
tall.
see the building on top of the 6 foot of bricks, can't we, Jose?
Yes.
So the 6 foot of bricks, effectively part of the building, has gone because of angular size, but we can still see the rest of the building. So the bottom has disappeared first, Jose.
Yeah, then I'm gonna need 600 more miles to make the whole building disappear. That never happened. Never been documented.
What are you talking about? So I can see infinitely to America, the high rises, can I? Or are they too small to see also, Jose?
Oh, they're too small to see.
Oh, so eventually the building will do precisely what you've said it won't then, you cognitively challenged idiot.
I'm itching to make a point so bad.
No need to get triggered, Nathan.
I'm getting triggered because you seem to not understand something that you understood a week ago. So stuff does get too small to see, like a 6 foot wall. But that doesn't mean to say that you can put stuff on top of the stuff that's too small to see and still see it. In other words, stuff does disappear bottom first on a flat plane.
Yeah. Perspective, yeah.
Right. So why, I'll ask it the last time, 5th time, why, given the fact that things do disappear bottom first due to angular size, would you assert every single time you see obstruction from the bottom up that it's Earth curve?
Because when I'm looking at this building, which is, I don't know, 400 foot tall, I'm missing 100 foot in the bottom at 20 miles away. Let's say just a rough number. So I should be able to see it because a 6 foot, the first floor of the building should be seen at least 20 miles away.
No!
But I'm not seeing it 5, 6, 7 miles away.
We've just gone through this, so you're literally going to piss it in my face. No, you shouldn't see the bottom of it, so you're literally going to piss it in my face. I've just took 20 minutes over this with you.
Right now.
I've just took 20 minutes over this, Jose, with you conceding that the bottom 6 foot in the example I gave does disappear. And you're going to say, well, I see big buildings that have got the bottom.
But now we're talking about
reality.
reality.
You're going to rumpus me now. So your example is precisely the same as the example I've just given. The bottom section's gone.
Yeah, that was a thought experiment with made out numbers. Now I'm talking about reality, what we see in real life.
Yeah, that is what we see.
It doesn't conform with perspective.
Excuse me. So I've just detailed how perspective makes things disappear from the bottom first, and you're saying it doesn't conform with that. But it does conform with your religious belief of Earth curve, though, right? So it's Earth curve.
Exactly, because it happens sooner than what the perspective dictates.
Who's dictating anything? I took an arbitrary 6 foot wall at any distance you chose and proved that the building that we built on top of it would disappear 6 foot first. So who gives a crap about any other obstruction from this point on? I have proven to you now that the bottom section will disappear first through angular limitation. That's a fact. So you coming along and saying, well, I see a big building with a lot disappeared at the bottom. Yeah, and I can explain that with perspective, Jose.
Yeah, and in real world, I should be able to see a lot further than I'm seeing, and I'm not.
Who cares what your assertion about what you believe you should or shouldn't see? What we do see in a camera is stuff that's far away disappearing bottom first. Totally and utterly and completely in line with perspective.
Not really.
Not really.
I should see- I
So
should
the
see
6
further
foot wall
away.
doesn't
I'm not-
disappear then. Jose, the 6 foot wall doesn't disappear then. Oh,
Well,
it's
Nathan,
dropped.
just think about this. Like, you
I don't
build
want to
that-
think about anything you've got to say, Jose. I'll come to you on the next show. So with that, I'll say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you're watching live, stay tuned as the show will resume in a few minutes' time. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!